little slot has popped up in the work schedule. What a touch. Bit of a spur of the moment thing, so I haven't got anything arranged, but I've slung everything in the back of the van. Good job, I'm pretty much organised, so I've got everything, and yeah, we are going fishing. I can't wait. Let's get it on. So we made it. Just going to sort the alarms out. We've got a lovely warm breeze blowing in our face here today. Going to be about 21 overcast, which is just perfect conditions. Had a little bit of a cast about of a lead, find a couple of clear spots, and found a couple of clear areas out there. So yeah, just going to get the old rigs on, stick them out there and see how we get on. But wish me luck. Get old Snoopy out of the bag. The lucky mascot. See if we have a couple. Come on, Snoops. Do the do. Side of some weed, got a big old bank of weed out there, big old like a big raft of weed out there. It's really weedy at the moment, this place. So fishing to drop off the lead. Unfortunately, I don't like dropping the leads at all. It's just a waste of tackle at the end of the day. But if you're going to get fishing safely, you've got to drop those leads, unfortunately, especially when it's like really weedy like this. I'm fishing little hybrid clips at the moment today. They drop the lead every time. I've never ever had a problem with them. The other systems are great, but I'm fishing all clear spots as well. Pretty firm areas, so it's not, I ain't got no problems about you know, presenting the bait or nothing like that. I know I'm presenting really well. Got 3 spinners out there, all on the same bright yellow mainline pineapple pop-ups, and managed to get a little bit of bait over the top of each one of them, just spomming out of a little tiny spom. So they've got a bit of bait over them. Just going to sit and wait for some liners now, see if I can you know, kind of see some fish come in, give you some signs that I know I've got some fish over me, and with any luck we'll have a fish. But in the meantime, I'm going to get the kettle on as per usual because I am bloody gasping, and I left with no breakfast. I had a quick cup of tea before I left this morning, but yeah, bleeding gasping. Stick that kettle on, boy. So whilst I've done the all-important thing of making myself a nice cup of coffee, my mind was firmly fixed on each one of those rods. I know exactly where each one of those rods are, and how many wraps each one of those rods are, and what hook baits are on each one of those rods. It's just a case of keeping my eyes peeled over those areas to see if I see any carp showing, any signs of carp showing. Obviously this venue's, you know, quite highly stocked with carp, so you make sure that things are active, and in that respect you make sure that the bait's going in constantly. The fish tend to come in big sort of shoals, if you like, similar to sort of like Oxley's or somewhere like that, I guess, or Farlow's. So you have to keep the bait topped up, keep those going in. I like to use little tiny spoms for this, just don't create too much noise. Just perfect really. So I put a couple of spoms over each rod and keep the swim live and active. So if any carp do come through, they've got bait falling through the water, and it's just something that you should try and practice every sort of like hour, something like that. Just keep the bait going in. Now, when I say bait, what I do like to use is ground baits or sloppy mixes. Not too watery, but just cloudy with a little bit of food content in there. Nothing too crazy, and then every now and again I might mix one of those spoms up with a spom of boilie, maybe 10 millers or 15 millers, but keep the food levels low. So I often get asked about weather. When's the best times to go? What kind of weather are we looking for? Well, this is it. Overcast, it's going to be 20 odd degrees today. Overcast, we've got a nice bit of wind on the water, nothing too crazy. Obviously the more it blows the better, but as long as we've got some sort of break on the water, that's great. And yeah, overcast and warm, muggy, expecting a little bit of rain later on, which is just great. Just perfect weather for this time of year. So this is what you want to look for. So we're now at that time of year when the water temperatures are really, really warm. Carp are really active. They're searching out bait. They're searching out feed to replenish themselves from when they've just spawned, which was probably a few weeks ago. It depends on your lake, I guess, and how active they've been. But great additive for this time of year is now to introduce oils. Oils really come into their own as the water temperatures are up to their maximum. They work really, really well in warm water. I wouldn't usually advise using these in the winter, or any particular oil in the winter, to be fair. And the fish don't really utilise it very well. But as we've come into these warm temperatures now, it's really, really worth thinking about using them in your baits. I use these a lot. This particular one, the Foss oil, Mainline's Foss oil, I use this a lot because it's got like a fish feeding inducing ingredient in it already. It's used widely in the fish farming industry, and it's a well-known top oil to use. So this will go all over my pellets, all over my boilies. If I do use stick mixes, we don't use a lot of stick mixes these days, but if I do, we usually build them up over the course of a few weeks until it takes on a whole bottle. You'd be surprised how much you can get in a stick mix. And yeah, utilise oils right at this particular time, right away up until spring, until the water temperature starts to drop again. But get on the oils, it's a really, really good tip. So I set up in that swim all day from, I don't know, what was it, so about 8 o'clock I got the rods out, up until about 3 o'clock. this afternoon without a bleep, without a line bite or nothing. So I thought I'd have a move right to the other end of the lake. As I say, it's 18 acres, ain't exactly round the corner, but it wasn't a million miles away. But anyway, done that, put the rods out, a bit of bait, and wasn't sort of like half an hour and the rod's gone off. So I'm well pleased with a lovely comet, £20 on the nose. Had to move swim, and had anything, well, nothing all day, no lines, no bleeps or nothing. 20 minutes in, half hour in, and the right rod's absolutely burst into life. And this lovely little chunky common, £20 on the nose. Has took a cell bottom bait, topped with one of the new little mainline quads in the cell flavour as well, and over a bit of cell. The old bait that just never fails to catch. Lovely little fish. Spinning around, show you the other side. Remember to keep your bucket of water by you all the time, keep them wet all the time, look after them as much as you can. He's got a little tear on his mouth there, which I'm gonna mend. Put some clinic on it in a minute, and slip him back. Lovely fish. Well happy. Well, like I say, I moved swim. I was up one end of the lake basically for the majority of the day, up until about 3 o'clock. And I'd had no liners, nothing really to tell me that there's any fish in front of me. I see a few fish sort of like really far out, but it was well without my reach, should I say. I couldn't cast that far. They was like at least sort of like 160, 170 yards out, and the wind was in my face. There was no chance of me getting to them. And the wind actually turned round a little bit as well, so I kind of hedged my bets on perhaps a few fish being up the other end. So yeah, I moved, and wasn't long, 30 minutes, so about half an hour, and the left rod was away. So yeah, really happy with that result. Just goes to show that if you move, you know, if you're not having anything, sometimes it pays to move. With any luck, I might nick a few more. We plod on. So something I thought I'd touch on while I'm doing my vlog, and is really important, especially to us anglers, because we're out in it all the time. Especially like when it starts to get really hot. And the amount of people you see on Facebook or your social media pages where, oh look how burnt, I've done me back and I've got my head burnt and blah blah blah. And I don't think many of us, well, we probably do take it with us, but obviously people don't use it a lot. But what I want to touch on is taking some sun cream with you. Now I've got 30, 50 is probably even better at the moment. I use 30 and 50 to be honest with you, but just to try and block out some of those rays. And I'm guilty of not doing it in the past, really, to be quite honest with you, like most of us. But I just thought, while I've got some people's attention, that do yourself a favour and just get a bottle, and when that sun comes out, or even before you leave home, make sure you put a bit on, and through your session put a little bit on, you know, every now and again put a bit on. And if you're worried about it getting over your baits and stuff like that, because that's one thing that I'm really paranoid about, is me handling my baits afterwards. Is what I normally do is I put it on, and then I boil my kettle, let it cool down a little bit obviously, and wash my inside of my hands with warm water. And that way, you know, just dry it with your towel, and that way it's off your hands, and you can touch your bait again. And once you've done that, a good little tip as well is to grab hold of some bait. Just take 5 or 6 baits out your bag, break them down in your fingers, and rub them in your hands, and that way you get all the scent of the bait back onto your hands and back into your hands again. But yeah, skin cancer is one of them things that I don't think, you know, people pay any attention to until they've got it, really. And it's but it's really important to get that message out there and get us as anglers, you know, clubbing together and doing something about it basically. So do yourself a favour and get some sun cream. So unfortunately no more carp turned up after that. At least I'd moved and I'd had one, so I was really pleased with that. But it wasn't long before I was back up there having another session with a good friend of mine over the weekend, and I managed to nick one first thing in the morning on a lovely sunrise.
20 past 4 in the morning. Literally just got up to do myself a cup of coffee, and my left rod's away. And I had this little minter. About that for perfection. We'll mind a few more of these, maybe a little bit bigger. Not weighed in, but he's around about 17 pounds, something like that. £17 in 18 acres. Makes you wonder where they go, doesn't it? Anyway, I'm going to slip him back and get that rod back out and have a sip of me coffee. Stupidly left my tripod at home, so everything today is going to be filmed in my careful hands, and I'll try to be as steady as possible. But as you can see, I'm on a nice easterly winds, more or less blowing into this bank, or this end of the lake. It's really hot. We're looking at like 80 degrees. I think it's 85 today, maybe touching 90 again. But the fish don't seem to mind in here. They seem to get on the feed no matter what the weather. So, fingers crossed, we'll nick a few. I'm here for the day. Well, I'm here for the night. Obviously, got the rest of the day. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And got the rest of the night up until tomorrow morning. And I've just had a little knock on that right rod. It's only been in a couple of minutes, literally. I found a really nice hard spot out there. And I'm pretty sure there's a few fish up at this end. So, fingers crossed, we'll nick a few. Yeah. So something else I like to use in the summer is the mainline stick mix liquids. They're very, very water soluble. They're great added to sort of like boilies and pellets and stuff like that. You can't overdo them. Just absolutely flood the baited area with them, and they give off a lovely, lovely scent and a lovely sort of like food trail for them to follow down. Especially if they're sort of hovering around in the surface layers a lot and you don't really want to catch them on zigs, or you want to try and catch them off the bottom. Try and add a lot of liquids to try and pull them down through the area. So the way I've been fishing my rigs recently, especially if I found nice clear, relatively firm areas, preferably not gravel but firm areas, so firm silt, is as you can see, the silt, like just the tip of the hook bait, the tip of the point is just kind of touching bottom, and the hook bait itself is just hovering above. And I found this be just a bit more of a subtle sort of like presentation as compared to sort of like maybe your blatant sort of spinner pop up setup. Maybe this just seems to be picking out a slightly bigger fish for me. Something to bear in mind. So the story so far, I've lost one on the left hand rod, which isn't good. I see the fish literally just about to get the net to it, and I see the hook ping off its lip. Typical. It didn't look like it was in its mouth properly, so sometimes I don't pick them up properly, and very often that's how you end up pulling out a fish. You know, it's easy to worry yourself and think, oh, that rig weren't right, or the hook weren't right, or something wasn't right, blah da 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 da. But a lot of the time they just don't pick them, pick the baits out properly. I see it all the time in my pond. I watch them, feed them, watch how they feed, and they're actually really clumsy feeders. They're not the best of feeders, because once that food goes past their vision, because obviously their eyes are on the back of their head, if you like, they've got that gap in between their eyes and their mouth, and once that goes past a certain point, they find it very hard to see, but they detect it obviously miles before they even got to it. But yeah, anyway, lost it, but I'm pretty sure there's more time for another one. Got a lovely steady breeze blowing in here. As I say, temperatures are really warm, beautiful summer weather. At last we're having some summer weather, but I've got my sun cream on, I'm sitting in the shade, and it's happy days. So, not the biggest fish in the lake by any means, but have a look at that. That'll do, wouldn't it? Hey, that'll do. Just over 14 pound. Not big by any means. Typically out of 30 I had a 30 out of here on the weekend and forgot to bloody video it. Can you believe it? Just typical. But anyway, yeah, £14 of absolute scaly perfection. Happy days. Hee hee. Thank you, go. So, fish number 2. Really pleased with this. Not massive, £18. Cracking looking fish. Really darkening up now, so starting to look really nice. I caught out an 18mm IB wafter, and just glugged that in a little bit of smart liquid with a tiny little drop of oil in the tub of hook baits, and they seem to be doing the business. So really pleased. I'll flip them around and show you the other side. Just remember, keep them wet, keep your bucket of water near you. Always keep them wet, especially in this weather. It's just starting to cool down a little bit now, but temperatures we've had today have been like 80 degrees, 90 degrees. It's been quite warm, but absolute peach of a fish. Look at that. Beautiful. So I'm going to slip him back. I've put some bait out already, which is another important thing to remember, is as soon as you've had a fish, let him recuperate in the net for a little while. Get your spom out, put 2 or 3 spoms over the spot, keep that bait going in, and when you feel them going like that, just put them back on the mat as soon as you feel them going. So yeah, as I was saying, the bait in straight away. As soon as you've had that fish, put the bait in, keep that bait going in so the bait's topped up on that spot, and as soon as you've put him back, get the rod back on the spot, get it rocking. So I'm going to slip him back. Okay, so what I've done with these is as you can see, they are balanced wafters, Irish pineapple, and what I've done with these, excuse the dinner, is I've added a bit of smart liquid to them, so they are kind of glugged, if you like, more or less just coated in the smart liquid. Don't really take the smart liquid on, if you like. They take a bit of the smell and a bit of the flavour on, but it doesn't affect the buoyancy because it's not a very thin liquid, so it doesn't affect the buoyancy. But I've just added a tiny bit of oil, of the Foss oil, and the reason behind that is because of the makeup of the smart liquid, it can kind of dry out if you just leave it, and I don't want them to dry out, I want them to stay liquidy. So I add a tiny little bit of oil, and all that does is, like, when you shake it up and keep it, you know, when you shake them up and keep it sort of like moving, it just keeps them from drying out, basically. That's all I do. I didn't want to add water because I didn't want to add to the buoyancy, or you know, make the buoyancy different. I wanted to keep the buoyancy the same, and yeah, that's the reason why I've added a little tiny bit of oil. Well, I've got a brew on. It's just gone 5 o'clock. The sun is just coming up. It's absolutely beautiful, beautiful summer morning. This is one of the reasons why we go fishing and why we fish through all the seasons. And when I think back to how cold it was, and laying here wrapped up in my thermals and my hat and my gloves, and having to light the stove to keep yourself warm, and not being able to get out of the bag till at least 9 o'clock, and to try and keep warm. When I think back how cold it is and how much you struggle in the winter, and it's such a pleasure to wake up when it's like this. It's just, oh man, it's just unexplainable. You try and explain it to anyone that doesn't fish, or anyone that doesn't really like the outdoors, or worried about creepy crawlies, or worried about spiders. Life's too short for all that. You need to just get out there, experience it, and soak it up. And that goes for any of your partners, any of your female partners that don't like fishing, or say, oh, it's a bit boring, or oh, moan about it, or whatever. Take a book, take your phone, whatever. Go with your partner, do the night. Wrap up, get up in the morning, Beautiful mornings like this, it's not cold at all. It's incredible. Just to experience it, you'll be glad you did. Well, the session slowed down quite a bit from the other side in the first swim that I was in. So I decided to have a bit of a move for a couple of hours, just up until the morning. We're just approaching 12 o'clock. The rods have been out for a couple of hours. Found a couple of clearer spots, or clear spots should I say. A little area not too far out from this bank. But I've not even had so much as a bleep or a liner or any kind of indication to tell me there's some fish here. I see a couple here this morning in this kind of area, but it was early this morning. They're obviously not here in their numbers, and that's the thing as well. If you don't, if you're not getting any liners or anything like that, or bleeps or any signs to say there's fish in front of you, then they're generally not here in numbers, and that's what you want to do. You want to try and find fish that are in numbers. One or two stragglers is not really the one, but anyway, had a couple. Lost one, so really pleased with the outcome. You can't win them all. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and hopefully I'll try and get another vlog up as soon as I possibly can. Ciao for now. So I've popped over to my syndicate and got a couple of nights, and I had a really nice scaly last night, 28 pound, and I've just had this absolutely mint common 34.6. I thought I'd quickly do a little video just to show you his beauty. Look at that. How about that? Absolutely made up. Really, really made up.